right, I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Richfield Housing and Redevelopment Authority. It's 7 p.m. on April 20th, and we're holding a virtual meeting via WebEx. Administrative Assistant Dubois is going to take attendance, and every time we do votes, she will also do a roll call vote. So I'm going to turn it over to her to take attendance.
Okay, Chair Supple?
Here.
Commissioner Elliott?
Here.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez?
Here.
Commissioner Vries Daniels?
Here.
Commissioner Sandell?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. At the next part of our agenda is the open forum. And from what I understand, no one has emailed in for open forum, but I would like to have Executive Director Stark explain the process in case people would like to contribute to the meeting in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Supple. Under the current COVID emergency provisions, we are doing meetings via WebEx remotely. And so for the time being, the way open forum would work, and we have posted this, is that residents would submit a email to myself as the executive director, or to anybody in the community development department, and it would find its way to me, and then those would be presented at the HRA and EDA meetings. We're hoping that the telemeetings that we're doing can evolve over time, and that we could have live participation in the future. But as was noted, for tonight's meeting, we did not have any correspondence for open forum.
Thank you, Executive Director Stark. Our next order of business is approval of the minutes of the regular HRA meeting of March 16th, 2020.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Elliott and seconded by Commissioner Vries Daniels.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Does anyone have any questions? All right, hearing none, we'll let Administrative Assistant Sandell second. All right, thank you. And Administrative Assistant Dubois can go ahead and take the roll for all in favor of approving the minutes.
Okay, Chair Supple?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan-Gonzalez?
Aye.
Commissioner Vries Daniels?
Aye.
Commissioner Sandell? Okay, the motion has been passed with 5 ayes.
All right, thank you. Our next order of business is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So moved. All
Right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you like to take roll call, please?
Okay, Chair Supple?
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott?
Aye.
Commissioner Vries Daniels?
Aye.
Commissioner Sandell?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next is the consent calendar. Executive Director Stark, could you tell us about that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Supple. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the HRA in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further HRA action on these items is necessary. Any HRA commissioner may request the removal of an item. All items listed in the consent calendar are recommended for approval. Tonight we have 2 items. Item A, consideration of a resolution authorizing execution of a developer agreement with the West Hennepin Affordable Land Housing Trust, also known as WALT, doing business as Homes Within Reach, for the acquisition, rehabilitation, and sale of houses under the New Home Program. Item B, consideration of a resolution authorizing the Housing Redevelopment Authority Executive Director to grant a 120-day extension to deadlines in existing contracts in response to the COVID emergency. That concludes tonight's consent calendar.
Someone like to move the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez and seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Is there any discussion? All right. Administrative Assistant Dubois, if you would take the roll call, please.
Okay, Chair Supple,
Aye, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Breeze Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandal.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you. Our next item of business is consideration of a professional service agreement with volunteers enlisted to assist people or to provide emergency rent assistance for Richfield households impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, Chair Supple. I'm going to ask that Housing Redevelopment Manager Julie Urban provide the staff report on this.
Thank you, Chair Supple, members of the Commission. The COVID-19 crisis, as you know, is having a negative economic impact on Richfield residents. Job losses and reduction in income create food insecurity and housing instability, especially for our low-income households. Volunteers enlisted to assist people, or VEAP, provides emergency rent and food assistance to Richfield households, and they have seen a significant increase in requests for assistance for both food and rent since the state's stay-at-home order was enacted. While the city annually provides funding to VEAP for this assistance, needs have increased and has led to a need for additional funding. So staff is recommending that the HRA provide an immediate $30,000 in funding to VEAP to expand its emergency rental assistance program to renters financially impacted by the crisis. In order to facilitate the emergency rental assistance, the HRA attorney has actually recommended that the city create an affordable housing trust fund. The trust fund would provide clear legal authority to the city and the HRA as its administrator of the trust fund to provide emergency rental assistance. Until an ordinance can be passed, which can take several weeks to pass and then before it becomes effective, the City Council is going to be asked next week to consider passing an emergency ordinance that will authorize the HRA to provide some rental assistance in the meantime required because of the COVID-19 crisis. The proposed professional service agreement with VEAP will be effective with that approval. The source of funds for the rental assistance would be the HRA's Capital Improvement Fund. As you may remember, the Capital Improvement Fund was created many years ago with the intention of maintaining $1 million balance and then using investment earnings for special programs and/or for emergency situations. We think of it colloquially as our rainy day fund. There's currently a balance of $1,125,942 in the Capital Improvement Fund. So we are recommending at this time the HRA allocate $30,000 of these funds to VEAP. Additional funds will likely be needed as the crisis continues, but at that time we would return to the HRA to ask more funding with the idea that we would know a little bit more where the situation is at. There's a couple of opportunities for additional funds, and actually have an update for the one potential source, which is CDBG funds, and the county actually already has received those funds, and they put out a mini RFP on Friday and have asked VEAP and other food shelves in the county to apply for that by Wednesday. And so the idea would be to get them some money fairly quickly. They received about $1.5 million in funds. At this time, they plan to spend half that, but that is, has to serve much of Hennepin County. It doesn't apply to Minneapolis, Bloomington, Plymouth, or Eden Prairie, but all of the rest of the communities would have to be served with that. So I wouldn't anticipate that would meet all of VEAP's needs, but it'll be a good additional source to help, go along with the funds that we would make available. So if you have any further questions, I put quite a bit in the staff report. The sort of funding mechanism of the trust fund got to be a little bit complicated, but I think we've worked through that piece. And so hopefully, I just wanted to make sure you had all the information you needed, and I'm happy to go over more of that, or if you have questions, let me know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Should we go ahead? Does anyone have questions first of all, before we have a motion? All right, Commissioner Regan Gonzalez.
Thank you. Do you know, thank you for Chair Supple. Do you know, do the family members have to apply, do they have to claim this as like additional income? Does that impact the family in that way?
No, that's one of the reasons it's good to, it would be paid directly to the landlord. And so, no, it does not count as income when you do it that way. That's my understanding from Veep.
Oh, go ahead.
How do we know, like, because there is such high need, how would we know when there's funds, the funds that Veep has are spent and no longer accessible to families? Because I think as people are hearing, Veep is flooded with calls. So how can we try to help monitor that a little bit?
So I've been in contact several times with Veep staff people, trying not to talk too much to their social service folks because I know how busy they are, but the development person and I have been in close contact, and so I would envision she will keep me informed. The contract requires regular updates, but so I can check in. She and I have had several video calls together, and so I will do that. We're going to need, records, and we're going to need a report, but I do want to leave them to do the work that they need to do. They have gotten a lot of calls. Part of that is there's been some confusion. Both Edina and Bloomington passed some money, and in both cases, it wasn't super clear in the information that got sent out that it was specific to the residents of their community. So Veep has been getting calls from across the state asking about the money. And so I've already talked to our communications folks to say we need to be clear that there's money for Richfield residents, and also there is some money in there they can use for some staff and admin costs. That's just a practical part of doing business. And then Bloomington has actually added some money to potentially add a staff person. And so while that's technically helping Bloomington, I would say a thank you to them because it is going to have an impact on the positive impact on the organization, which only benefits us as well. So a big thank you to Bloomington for being able to fund something there. Yeah, I just encourage folks to keep calling, to be patient. We're getting better and better, but yeah, their voicemail can handle up to 100 calls, and it has been maxing out. So yeah, there's a lot of need.
So clearly there is a lot of need. Can you clarify, this is open to any resident in Richfield, correct? That's a renter?
Richfield renters, yep.
Lease? Does it matter if you have a formal lease or an informal lease, or?
It's certainly easier with a formal lease, but they do try their best. They have worked with informal situations before. They can't give the money to just anyone. I mean, that's not just a condition of ours. It's a condition of, they have lots of different funds they put together, and they have rules they have to follow, and they really need to make sure they're, helping someone to achieve housing stability. And so, but they do their best to try to work out some kind of an arrangement. That's kind of, they said it's really a case-by-case basis, so there's not a set formula for that situation. Yeah, otherwise, Richfield renters who meet, we should clarify it, you do have to meet income guidelines, and that's 200% of the federal poverty guideline, which is very close to 50% of the AMI, which is closer to what we're used to. And I apologize, I should have looked those numbers up, but before the meeting, but yeah, those would be the limits they'd look for. But then Veep can also help folks get access to food. They will increase your ability to access food at Veep, and that frees up your income for other things to maybe help pay part of the rent. And they also can make sure folks connect with county resources that they might be eligible for, but they do, they're very clear about wanting to serve people regardless of immigration status or other things that can be barriers for other programs.
All right, thank you. Are there any other clarification questions anyone wants to ask before we put the motion on the floor?
I don't have a question. In looking at the critical timing issues, I like the paragraph anticipating with the no evictions in place. And really all of a sudden it hit at the back end when things straighten out a little bit. There's some provisions in here to make sure that we can assist the rent at that point in the process also. And I think that shows a lot of foresight, because it's not all of a sudden going to stop and you're going to have the rents backloaded onto their current leases. So I think it's going to be just as important at once the cloud lifts and things are moving a little bit normally. So I really appreciate having that in the resolution also.
I mean, I think we all certainly wish we could help absolutely everyone as long as needed, but we do have limited resources. And I did put in there just to forecast that there are some other pots of money we can look at as the situation changes and we know better what the needs are. We'll keep you informed.
All right. If there are no further clarification questions, would someone like to make the motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Regan Gonzalez and seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Vries Daniels.
I just wanted to say how happy I am that we have this rainy day fund, that we are able to help during this time frame. So huge kudos to staff and prior members for having the foresight. So thank you.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez.
I would also like to say thank you so much to our staff. I know that our staff has been working extremely hard on helping figure this out for our renters as well as our small businesses. It's a huge need in the community, and I think the amount that we're able to contribute is great. And I do like the $30,000 in different chunks. And I also appreciate the staff just responding to a lot of questions I sent over. I will share that there's so much confusion, there's so much fear right now, and then there's different cities doing things differently and then different requirements, and I think people are really stressed, and there is a lot of confusion, and I just appreciate the staff just doing a lot of work to help clarify some of those items, and I did want to ask a couple other things. So maybe this is not maybe a conversation for now, but I'm wondering, how can the city plan for when the eviction moratorium is lifted and how that is going to impact our renters once that's lifted and once that's lifted? I'm concerned about potential evictions or just really not great situations for our families. So maybe that's something that we could start thinking about. And to be honest, I don't even know where we start with that. I can ask around, but I am concerned about what's going to happen when that moratorium is lifted. And then I'm wondering if we pass this, if after that, if Veep and our city staff would be open to hosting a call with some leaders from our community to help lessen some of the confusion and lessen some of the burden maybe on Veep. Because I hear so much confusion from Ridgefield residents, but then also, like you said, Julie, folks are calling from all over. They're not sure, that they don't understand that this is only for a certain service area. So is there just some really basic, like a sheet that leaders from community organizations can use to help share that information with their constituents? And I'm thinking groups like Clues has a hotline, and they actually said to me today that they would love to have access to the information about Veep so that they can use that in their screenings when they talk to families. I know there's La Red Latina, Navigate. I'm thinking about the organizations that Analyst Gavinia Martinez works with on the census. So is there kind of just some basic screening and 101 information that we can give to our community leaders and organizations to help in that, help lessen the burden for Veep?
Yeah, actually, that sounds like a great idea. We can maybe actually pull together a basic sheet ourselves. I can run it by Veep if that works. But if you have, yeah, a list of contacts that would be interested in a call, we could work to facilitate that. Yep, so those are good ideas. Yep.
And once again, thank you so much for doing this. It is a huge, huge need, and I appreciate all the work that our staff is doing.
Yeah, thank you. Mary, you're muted.
Thank you. Are there any other points that anyone would like to make? All right, then I want to echo the thanks to the staff, and I know you've been answering lots of questions because this is a huge need in the community, and we want to do the best to help make sure that people have stable housing, because whether you rent a house or own a home, you need a stable place to live, and the more we can do to help people have stability in housing, the better off we are. And then another point that has not been brought up yet, though, is that if we're providing the rental assistance to people so they can pay their rent, that also helps the landlords, so they can maintain the housing and keep things up and keep people employed, like the maintenance people and the painters. And so there's kind of a domino effect in all of this. So it helps the people getting the renters assistance, but it also helps to provide quality housing for everyone else, because then if we can help as many people as we can, it doesn't put that pressure on to try and do evictions and stuff like that. So it helps down the road. Okay, at this point, there's been a motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing a professional services agreement with volunteers enlisted to assist people to provide emergency rental assistance to low-income Richfield residents, contingent upon City Council approval of an emergency ordinance to allow rental subsidies due to the impacts of COVID-19. Hearing no other discussion, Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you please call the roll? All in favor, please say aye.
Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Breeze Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandal,
Unmute, please.
Commissioner Sandal,
Just a second.
Commissioner Sandal, I can unmute you.
All right, please do it. Thank you. Aye.
You are unmuted. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you. Our next item of business is the Hra discussion items. Is there anything that anyone would like to bring up? All right, then we'll move on to the Executive Director's report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Sandal. I would note that in item 2B on tonight's consent agenda, we did mention, and I'm not going to make you flip through it, I'll read through some of it. We mentioned a couple of our redevelopment projects and the status of those projects. You know, I guess suffice it to say that our redevelopment projects, what we've heard from all the developers is they plan on continuing with the projects. There is, of course, some delay, though, with the COVID situation. It just put a halt to a lot of banking transactions. In the case of the Henley 2, they have purchase agreements for 5 houses, and the homeowners had asked for an extension because it's not a good time for them to obviously make a real estate transaction. So each of the redevelopment projects, as I said, are still intent on moving forward, albeit with some delay, and that's the reason we sought an extension. I'm going to ask Housing and Redevelopment Manager Julie Urban to provide an update on some of our housing programs in the current situation.
Sure, thank you, Executive Director Stark, Chair Supple, and members of the Commission. Just give you a rundown of our different programs. Our Section 8, or Housing Choice Voucher Program, I would say that staff is seeing a lot of requests for rent changes because of lost income, which we expected. We are granting waivers to various aspects of the program in order to process those things more quickly. We do anticipate that we'll receive some additional funds from HUD to make up for the fact that now we're paying more of the rent. The CARES Act did include some, the Federal CARES Act included some money for that program. We'll have to wait until May and June to sort of see how that shakes out. We have put our annual unit inspections on hold. They've granted us an extension until October 31st, but that doesn't make them go away. And so that just sort of delays the time and creates a backlog. And so I just tell you that one in part because in May, we expect to bring a waiver request to you to approve. It's a change to our admin plan where we would ask HUD to let us do inspections every other year. That is currently an option, which we haven't ever taken advantage of, but we and some other housing authorities are thinking that's a way to spread out the inspections so that they can be done more safely. Our inspectors have put safety procedures in place, but still, I think that there would just be too many inspections to have to get done by the end of October. And just to let you know that staff have been in contact with our more vulnerable residents, checking in to make sure they're doing okay. Kids at home, the way that's been impacted is just that parent share meetings have been suspended for right now. They're trying to find, really at the request of our families, trying to find a virtual alternative or some other way of meeting because they really do appreciate that community and need that. But Tamara, with People with Capes, already has such a relationship with our families that she, doing one-on-one counseling and phone calls with them on a weekly basis is really kind of already a large part of what she does, and she's keeping up with that just to make sure folks have what they need. Regarding some of our loan programs, apartment remodeling, we have a couple loans in progress, and like the development projects, while they're still continuing, things are just slowed down because of the crisis. We also have an apartment improvement grant in process, and again, he's in the process of trying to get bids, and that's just a lot more complicated right now. Transformation loan, we have some loans that have closed. We actually have one person who's moving forward with their project because they need a bigger house, which has been brought home by the fact that there are all 5 of them living at home right now. So it's been interesting, but also slowdowns because just wanting to have contractors safely working in their homes. And so they just can't have as many in at once and trying to create paths. And so just really everybody's trying to figure out how to make things work. Regarding our remodeling resource programs like architectural advisor and remodeling advisor, they have suspended their in-person visits, but both are willing to do, or all are willing to do virtual visits. And so, especially in the case of the remodeling advisor, if there's some sort of an emergency, they will do a virtual visit. In terms of our new construction programs, the new home program, 6310 Irving, should have been ready to close in May, but they had to shut down all volunteer work. Habitat has. And so while Habitat staff is still working to finish the home, that slowed things down. They do have a family identified for the home, and they do hope to be able to close yet this summer. So let's see, Richfield Rediscovered, we did have a credit application in process, and that did get withdrawn out of uncertainty over economic issues. So that is unfortunate. The Emerson Lane project, however, is continuing. As you know, construction is an essential service, and so he's been able to continue, and after some delays, he's really picked up the pace, and all houses are framed and moving along. Loan programs, deferred loan program is still active, so people can work on that, but they aren't doing any in-person inspections right now. That's all been delayed. I think that covers, you know, we talked a lot about renters and their needs, but we recognize that homeowners also are going to have needs. And so we're monitoring that situation. It's kind of another reason not to spend all our money right now in case needs come along. At this point, we're really encouraging folks to talk to their lenders. If they need to make some sort of a forbearance request. But we also have partnerships with PRG and NEDA, just to name a couple, who have financial counselors on staff who give them a call. It's free service, and really they can help you work out a plan and figure out what are your options to try to, with forbearance, if you can get approval for that. Some of that's required if it's a Fannie or a FHA mortgage. They are required to offer forbearance, where you just end up putting the payments at the end. That unfortunately is not something that a renter can do, but a homeowner may have that option. So at this point, we really just are trying to get information out to folks. And Kate has been working hard on a resource flyer that's going to be mailed to all of the city, and that'll have both homeownership as well as rental resources, as well as food and health and some other good information. So I think that kind of covers our programs. Unless I missed.
I would just add that the best news I can give you is that all the HRA staff is healthy. We're all primarily working from home. Julie Urban, Melissa Pillman, and myself are alternating in the office. So one of the three of us is here every day. I know you all are going through the same situation. I would say we feel like we're probably putting in like 125% effort to get about 75% productivity. But all you can do is put in the effort, and I'm very pleased with the effort that the staff is putting in.
Thank you so much for all of that effort, and I'm very happy that you are all well. Does anyone have any questions for either Ms. Urban or Mr. Stark? All right, well, thank you. It sounds like there's a lot going on, and you guys have been very busy, and we appreciate your efforts. Our next item is the claims. Is there a motion to approve the claims?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Sandal and seconded by Elliott to approve the claims. Is there any discussion? Right. Administrative Assistant Dubois, if you could take the roll, please.
Okay, Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Vreese Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandal.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
All right. Thank you very much. Since we have no further business, we're going to adjourn this meeting, and we're going to now convene the EDA meeting. So at this point, the HRA meeting is adjourned, and I'm calling to order the Economic Development Authority meeting for April 20th. It is 7:33 p.m. So Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you please take the attendance? Thank you.
Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Here.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Vreese Daniels,
Here.
Commissioner Sandal.
Present.
Thank you.
Now we're at open forum, and it's the same procedure as it was for HRA. Did we receive any communication from community members?
President Supple, no, it is, as you said, the same procedure in which under emergency provisions, we're taking comments through the open forum through email, and we did not receive any email comments for tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Executive Director Stark. Next, we'll move on to approval of the minutes of the regular EDA meeting of March 16th, 2020. Is there a motion for approval?
Move approval.
All right, so we had Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez move approval of the minutes and a second by Commissioner Sandal. Any further comments? All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye. So Administrative Assistant Dubois, can you please take the roll?
Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Vreese Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandal,
Aye.
the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next, we have approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for that?
I move approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Sandal and seconded by Commissioner Regan Gonzalez to approve the agenda. And seeing no further hands being raised for discussion, we will vote. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye. Administrative Assistant Dubois?
Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Vrees Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandal.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is consideration of a motion to suspend the Economic Development Authority Small Business Revolving Loan Fund and a resolution establishing a COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Forgivable. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, President Supple. The Richfield EDA was formed in 2018 with one of its primary goals as providing business assistance as a means of helping Richfield's economy flourish. As in cities across the country, Richfield business community is now struggling as social distancing measures and government mandated closures have been put in place in response to the COVID-19 global pandemic. In order to assist our local businesses in this difficult time, staff is proposing a COVID-19 small business forgivable loan. EDA staff have participated in several telemeetings with the U.S. Small Business Administration, or SBA, and the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, or DEED. These two organizations are taking the lead in providing federal and state funding. Staff has endeavored to learn as much as possible about the multiple COVID-19 related business grants and loans and have provided links about those programs on the city's website. We have also spoken with our peer cities in the metropolitan area, business associations, and a few local businesses in an effort to determine where the federal and state programs may fall short or be inaccessible to local businesses. Among the things we have learned are that the need for assistance far exceeds the available funding. And I think you all have heard the SBA's amount of money for the PPP payroll protection program went very, very quickly. Has now been depleted. Hopefully, I hope that Congress at the federal level will be able to authorize a second round of that. Much of the funding is being administered through banking institutions, and a business is at a disadvantage if they do not have an established relationship with a medium to large bank. Most of the funding is available most of the funding available is for payroll or COVID-19 specific expenses, while very little is for operating capital. Business owners who pay taxes through an individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN, rather than a social security number, are ineligible for most of these programs. And the smallest businesses, under 10 employees, seem to have a lower success rate in securing the emergency funding. For these reasons, EDA staff is recommending that the EDA provide a local COVID-19 small business assistance forgivable loan. The details of the loan program are provided in the attached draft summary of the proposed program, and I'll get to those in a moment. Staff is recommending that the Small Business Revolving Loan Fund, which the EDA established earlier this year, be suspended for the remainder of 2020. There are several reasons for this recommendation, among which are the needs are more pressing for COVID-19 specific program, and Metropolitan Consortium of Community Developers, or MCCD, was going to be administering that program for us. They have informed staff that they will be too busy administering other COVID-19 grants and loans to really appropriately administer that program. So staff is suggesting that the EDA use the funding that had been dedicated to this program in part to fund the COVID-19 forgivable loans. The 2020 EDA budget allows for $95,000 in business assistance. Staff is recommending that $65,000 from this year's budget plus $85,000 from the EDA's cash balance, which is currently around $461,000, for a program total of $150,000. I would note that the EDA did refrain from expending much of its funding in its first 2 years of existence in order to build a reserve for unforeseen needs or opportunities. I'm going to pull up the document. Is everybody able to see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, this is a document that I provided, staff provided to you late last week. There are some items in yellow highlighter that are new. I'm just going to go through this. This is $150,000 again is what we're suggesting. $2,500 would be for the first employee and $500 for each additional employee up to $7,500. It's for businesses that have been in continuous operation for at least a 12-month period. Businesses with no more than 25 full-time equivalent employees. It's for for-profit businesses only. Public agencies or nonprofit organizations would not be eligible. Some specific types of businesses would also not be eligible, and those would include businesses who primarily sell pawned merchandise, guns, tobacco, or vaping products. We've added that home-based occupations must be allowed under Richfield codes and ordinances, and all businesses must be properly licensed by the city of Richfield. I also added that businesses must have at least $40,000 in sales in 2019. I'm not sure that the $40,000 is a magic number. What we're trying to get away from here, and this is not to disparage anybody's business, but it's, you know, some people, their business is as much of a hobby as anything. You know, people selling things on eBay, or maybe somebody doing some, you know, lawnmower repair in their spare time. That's really as much, like I said, a hobby as it is a business. And so in talking with some local businesses that are of the types we're trying to hit, $40,000 seemed like a good threshold. In the event that we get more applications than there is funding to provide to all of the applicants, we would have weighting given to applications. Some of that weighting would be points given for businesses that were impacted by Executive Orders 2004, 2008, and 2009. These were really the executive orders, the first ones that came out, that were about shutting down specific kinds of businesses. And that would be restaurants, primarily sit-down restaurants, coffee houses and cafes, beauty salons, and other types of salons and barber shops, medical or dental facilities that are primarily performing elective procedures, fitness centers and recreational facilities. We'd also give extra points to businesses that have operated in Richfield the longest, those that have a Richfield resident as its owner or general manager, those that can demonstrate a high number or percentage of their employees as being Richfield residents, those that can demonstrate some extraordinary hardship related to COVID-19, those that can demonstrate that they contributed to the fight against COVID-19. Some examples would be providing PPEs, cleaning supplies, childcare to essential workers, etc. And with that, I would say that there are a lot of Richfield businesses that have been very kind to the city and the HRA in providing some of these types of things. And finally, extra consideration for businesses that are woman or minority owned businesses. The loan terms that we're proposing, we would have a loan agreement with a promissory note. It would be 0% loan until the end of 2021 with 2.25% APR thereafter with biannual payments. 50% of the loan, or up to $3,700, could be forgiven in 2020. And that's for reimbursement or in recognition of costs expended for COVID-specific supplies for payroll expenses. Here I wrote payroll expenses for employee other than the owner. So for example, if it's a single employee business, we don't want them using the funds just to pay themselves. It's for them to pay their employees. Capital improvements visible from a public street. Business-related licenses paid to the city. Rent or property taxes paid for commercial real estate. And then the other 50% could be forgiven by the end of 2021 if the business is operational for at least 9 consecutive weeks. In circumstances deemed by the EDA board to constitute a hardship, a portion or the entirety of the remaining loan balance may be forgiven after the end of next year. And I would note that in talking with the EDA legal counsel, the language in state statute about the things an EDA can and cannot do, we're very explicit that an EDA can provide loans and forgivable loans. The language about providing grants was a little fuzzier. And so we were not comfortable proposing a grant for that reason. I will say, though, we are not proposing this this expenditure of $150,000 with the expectation of seeing any money come back. If we do see some money come back, I guess I'm not sure if that would be a good thing or a bad thing. We really want to get the money out in the community, so we're trying to make it as forgivable as possible. And then on the second page, we've just got the kinds of things that the applicants must provide. So if the amount of loan requests exceed the amount of EDA funding, staff would either, number one, return to the EDA at next month's meeting to request additional funding to be made available, or use the criteria provided in the summary for staff to prioritize the awarding of funds. And really what we're proposing is a combination of those two. We're asking, and when we get to the recommended action, I might offer some additional language for the motion. We're really asking that staff have some independent authority to administer the program with guidelines that are similar or substantially similar to those that are provided, because this is something new for us, and I suspect as we start rolling this out, we'll learn more. And as you saw tonight, the highlighted things, I can anticipate having a few more additions in this before it's actually implemented, and a few things modified or maybe even taken out. So I think we're asking for a little bit of extraordinary leeway in administering this, just because the situation is so timely, and we really don't want to spend a lot of time going back and forth to public meetings with this if that is an impediment to getting the money out. So with that, I would stand for any questions you might have.
Are there any questions for Executive Director Stark? Commissioner Vrees Daniels?
Is MCCD going to be administering this program, or are you as a staff level going to be doing this yourselves?
We are going to be doing this at the staff level ourselves.
That's amazing.
We think it would probably be somewhere between 25 and 40 loans.
Okay.
Are there other questions? Okay, then if someone would like to make a motion, we can go about that and then have some discussion. And before we make the motion, Executive Director Stark, you said you had a little additional language you wanted to suggest?
Yeah, if a potential motion maker has a pen handy, I'll just read this out. I would just add on to the end, and authorize staff to independently administer the program with guidelines substantially similar to those presented.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yep. And authorize staff to independently administer the program with guidelines substantially similar to those presented.
Would someone like to make the motion? All right, can we unmute Commissioner Sandal, please?
Thank you. I would like to move consideration by the council, by the EDA, to be sent to the council, I suspect, to suspend the Economic Development Authority Small Business Revolving Loan Fund and a resolution establishing a COVID-19 Small Business Assistance Forgivable Loan with the additional language I have. Come on. And that we authorize staff to independent program with the guidelines substantially similar to those presented today.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Sandal and seconded by Commissioner Elliott. Is there any discussion? Mr. Stark?
Yeah, I just would like to clarify that this would be the last stop tonight. This does not go to the council.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Vreese Daniels?
I'm great with the addition. I think that's fantastic. Just keep us updated as changes happen so we can follow along. Thank you. As you always do.
Commissioner Regan Gonzalez?
I'd just like to say again, thank you to the staff for the exceptional work that you're doing in this. It always entails all the programs that you propose. Always entails doing so much different research, talking to other organizations, people most impacted, thinking out of the box, looking at what we can leverage. Our businesses, our families, our community, they are very, very fortunate. We are very fortunate as a city to have such an excellent staff. Honestly do great work. I'm on the phone with a lot of other cities and we do exceptional work. So thank you so much for that.
All right, Commissioner Sandal, and can we unmute? Thank you.
Thank you. I wish to say what I've said more than once over the years, and that is whatever Rich staff for doing it.
Any other comments? I also would like to thank the staff, and I think it was very prudent when you recommended in the past that we set aside some money, because now we actually have something to fall back on during this time. One of the things that, I don't know the name of the author of this, was author unknown, but they pointed out that in this situation, we're not all in the same boat, we're in the same storm. And so there may be people out on ocean liners and there may be people out in canoes, but we want everybody to weather the storm. And a lot of the federal and the state funding helped those bigger boats and the bigger businesses. And we need to do something for the smaller businesses that are 10 people or less and that size, because they are really, really important to this community and we need to help them weather the storm so we all make it through this together. So I just really appreciate all that the staff has done. Executive Director Stark.
Thank you, President Supple. So one of our goals is to make sure that every single business operating in Richfield, no matter how small, hears about this. So anything you can do to help us with that. Staff is meeting tomorrow morning to talk more about exactly how we're going to administer this. We hope to get some application materials out by the end of the week, maybe early next week at the latest. So anything you can do to help us get the word out would be greatly appreciated.
All right, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? All right, then we have a motion and a second in front of us. Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you like to take the attendance, please? Or poll the commissioners, please?
Yes. Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott, Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Vreese Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandal.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item of business is time for EDA discussion items. Do any of the commissioners have an item they'd like to discuss? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to the executive director's report. Mr. Stark.
Thank you, President Supple. I would just add that we also do have a energy efficiency loan program. We are keeping that going. We didn't see that as competing with the COVID-19 funding. We actually saw it being another avenue. So we also hope to be getting the marketing materials rolling out for that soon as well. That is being administered by the Center for Energy and Environment. So we do have some help with that one.
All right, thank you. And thank you once again for all the work that the staff has done. Next, we move on to claims.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Elliott and seconded by Commissioner Sandal to approve the claims. Any further questions? All right, then Administrative Assistant Dubois, would you please poll the commissioners? Thank you.
Yes. Chair Supple,
Aye.
Commissioner Elliott,
Aye.
Commissioner Reagan Gonzalez,
Aye.
Commissioner Vreese Daniels,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandal. Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
All right, thank you, everyone. We have no further business, so this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.